Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I am your host for the remainder of the evening. How is the Inside Movies Galore crew doing tonight? Thank you all for showing up. That you did. This is a wonderful group. Um, so, Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about this film in your own words, since I know you're real close friends with the director. The director is Brooklyn Ewing, correct?
Yeah, Brooklyn Ewing. Yeah, we're not super close friends, but we are kind of part of the same horror community. And we've met at horror conventions in the Midwest, where she's, of course, been promoting this film. And the follow-up to this one, She Was So Pretty, Be Good for Goodness Sake, which is currently screening at the horror conventions. And I didn't get to catch it in March when I was in Cincinnati because I think it was screening pretty early. And I just, with makeup and all the stuff I had to do, I couldn't get out to see it. So I have yet to see the follow-up to this one, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm waiting, like I want to see it at a convention screening. So I have my fingers crossed that they'll be showing it at Days of the Dead Indie coming up here in June. So hopefully then I can get that movie and we can talk about that one too. But oh, Dustin is here.
I guess so. If anything, thing you can just listen to us and gain a perspective of what you think from our perspectives, at least on this one, and then the following episode, if you wanted to watch the movie, I'll keep it up there so that you can watch it, and you can do like you did last week.
Okay, sorry everybody. So it was finals turn in due assignment week, and I'm kind of delirious. If anybody's seen Yu Yu Hakusho, maybe you remember that scene where that guy's like, "I'm fine," and he takes a drink, and then he like falls over, and his head cracks the pavement. It's hit so hard. Kind of like that. I was basically like I got home, and it's like, okay, where's the movie now? All right, click, dead.
So, Katie, why don't you begin again?
Sure. Well, I can tell you. I'll just read the plot summary from IMDb because it really sums it up well. It says Valerie Vestron is looking for a vacation from her life. Her friends have a plan to get her out of the house and get her to a secluded cabin. They plan to throw back some beer and unwind for the weekend, but they get more than they bargained for.
Okay.
So I feel like that just sort of is really just sets up the plot, but it doesn't really explain all of the nuances of the movie, particularly our main villain character.
Okay.
That sounds like Evil Dead, where it's just like some friends go to a cabin. There are problems.
but it's so not Evil Dead, Dustin. It's really actually, in my opinion, kind of like a throwback to like a 1980s Joe Spinell Maniac in a lot of ways. Very, very creepy guy who's socially awkward with women, and how he remedies that, or takes care of that, gets that close relationship with the women in his own creepy way.
I was just speaking in terms of how little detail the description seemed to give.
Well, I'm not sure who wrote it, but their IMDb page isn't like super filled with things. It's an independent movie, so
yeah.
So Brandon, why don't you tell me, was this your first time seeing the film?
Well, this is my first time hearing about it and seeing it. So, yes.
And what were your thoughts on the film?
I actually liked the film. I felt like it was a throwback. My thoughts were more towards the 70s style with a little bit of that 80s style thrown in because of just the, I felt like it wanted to be a 70s. It's like it always teetered on the edge of being the whole 70s splatterhouse type film to me. But just held back on the edge and stayed along the lines of the more sort of like Halloween-esque, a person just watching, waiting. Or was Halloween? Halloween was 70s too, wasn't it? No, it was 80s. My mind is.
Both.
Yeah.
The first one is 78.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The first time.
I mean, that guy,
It's exciting.
the thought of being hunted while you're not hunted.
And being in the background, observing.
And so when I originally saw it, I thought that the movie ended in the scene where the girl got captured at the 42-minute mark, which left me going, okay. But it left me with a totally different impression after I got to see the whole thing. And as I say, I thought it was a relatively good film for the type of genre it's in. The killer was relatively creepy. The whole part at the beginning of the movie where he does what he does, and I don't like to go too much into spoilers there, but the fact that, I mean, that just right there let me know more about him. Even the way the movie was filmed itself kind of reflected the killer more than it reflected the people. And again, that to me makes a good watch. And I am sorry that I only got to see half of it, and then I had to wait and then see the other half.
It's definitely probably worth another watch through. I've watched it a few times now since I got it. And every time I sort of pick up on a little bit more. I think it's one of those kind of movies where there's very little dialogue as a whole in this film. Like, a lot of the feelings and a lot of the creepiness is really conveyed through body language and facial expressions and the looks, and just like, I think the way some of the scenes are shot, like, to just give you sort of that creepy perspective in his like apartment and stuff too. Some of those shots really so I think that it is like, every time you watch it, you can probably find something else that you didn't see the first time through, And
most definitely I will have to check it out again.
Oh yeah. I actually did a written review on this maybe a month ago or so. And when I watched it, I felt like the film, I'd watched it for the first time, and I thank Katie for letting me get a copy of it. And I thought it was, see, whenever I go about, when I do a written review, I do think of the fact that, okay, this is a first time, film. Don't shit on it. You got to give it a chance. You got to give it a retrospective first, because it is not going to be a big budget film. It's going to be okay, whatever we could buy on hand at the moment. Let's go down to the dollar store and let's pick up that mask, and I
honestly thought, for being as low budget as it was, really good consistency with, like, I mean, just the vintage feel of this movie. Like, I appreciated the costuming, the props that were used, like total thrift store raids. It's got to be like, but that, even though it probably didn't cost a whole lot, it took a certain amount of creativity to put this together and actually make it look like a throwback. Like, I really felt if they could have gotten cars also from that era, this could have easily taken place 30, 40 years ago.
What's interesting is that there was a moment where in the film where he was looking at this this mechanical Christmas-y type display or whatnot, and it reminded me of this great little place up in northern Wisconsin, in New Rome, Wisconsin, I believe, and it's somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, and this whole land is dedicated to all these different lighted fixtures for Christmas decoration.
Is it okay? I think I've heard of that.
And it's just really neat, and because all of these mechanical things are like dating back to like the 70s, you know, and to me, seeing him stand in one of these displays kind of reminded me of me going up and seeing this display that these people have, you know, plopped all over their land. It's,
Well,
you know,
it just adds to the creep factor of the whole thing. Like, you know, just that you sort of really feel like you can tell something's not right with him. You know,
well,
he does these really strange things.
especially in the
Is
part.
it like a Texas Battleland kind of vibe from Chainsaw 2?
No, not at all. Like I said, like a Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, like, you know, following around the creepy guy and the things that he does in his, you know, very blue collarish like town.
Yeah, he's like this very nervous, but in the very beginning, you see him stalk this girl in a parking lot, and he literally just kind of walks her down, you know. And when he walks away, he's got this suitcase like he just had come from work. So,
Yeah, it is kind of painted as his work.
yeah.
Yeah, and his whole costume, I just love it. I just love the whole vibe.
And then later on,
and that's the Joe Spinell piece for me. Like, even though he doesn't look anything like Joe Spinell, I still like the way that even Joe Spinell dressed in like Maniac, where you just kind of were like, yeah, he's just kind of sleazy and creepy, and Alfie is totally that in this movie. And also, I feel like he plays it really. Jerry plays the role very well.
well, and the same chick that that he's following from the laundromat.
Yeah, the Valerie character.
Valerie.
Yeah, she did a really good job too. I was really digging her facial expressions in the scene where she's in the apartment and they're on the couch, and you can just tell she's so uncomfortable. And there's no words, there's no screaming, like she can't really fight him or get away. She just has to lay there with him all creeped out. And her facial expressions are golden. Like I could feel it. I could totally feel it.
I like the part where he's in the laundry room, and wasn't it that she had a piece of gum?
She puts her gum underneath the table, and then he comes and gets it and chews it. Yes, that is so creepy too. Yes,
that was
absolutely
when I got a creepy vibe, and then later on, there was actually a camera shot that I really liked in the film.
Me too. I wonder if it was the same one that I liked.
Later on, at that 42-minute mark, when she's hit with the headlights, or I don't know what it was.
There's a picture of that on IMDb. It's like the third picture on IMDb. Yes, with the headlights. I loved that scene, the way that was shot. It was beautiful. I actually wrote that down in my notes. Like, I gotta talk about that.
Which I am actually surprised that that Dane doesn't like any of the camera shots in here. I'm going to share what he has said that I can share. Let's see, where is it? This film was like an 80s shot on video film, except worse. It was dull, boring, poorly shot, poorly short, had poorly recorded sound, horribly derivative of other slasher films, and the only thing I liked about it was the synth score.
I'll give him the synth score was good, but I disagree on all the other points. Like, I thought it was really.
The room is awesome.
I disagree too, and that is because you know, I feel like this was fresh. I mean, it was it definitely had that 70s 80s vibe. and it does have a synth vibe, but it also has there was some music, other music in there too. There was that. I almost felt like that song that sounds like it was kind of folkish.
Yeah,
It
the
sounds
soundtrack is actually on Bandcamp. If
really.
Dustin, you would probably like the soundtrack. You could check it out. It's at
Yeah,
dirtcandyproductions.bandcamp.com.
yeah. Just hearing synth got me interested. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it's the face hugger, I think, is the name of the musician. I'm not real familiar with synth
You know
music
what?
or whatever.
Sounds promising.
How to
I
describe
would
them? Are they DJs?
I would
don't know.
say Dustin, because
Well, the thing about synth is that it's hard to describe kind of by nature. So you're doing
Sure.
fine.
Synth is good
Cool.
for horror soundtracks, though. I feel like it flows well.
Yeah, like Wes Craven knew what he was doing, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like this is totally, but I like those older movies. Those are my thing. Like newer movies anymore, it's like, yeah, I don't get super excited about it. I like things that are throwbacks to older things. I like things that play to my sensibilities about what I like about horror. And I feel like the people that made this movie feel the same way as I do. Not looking for a bunch of new, fresh, flashy horror. Like this is the tried and true kind of horror that I like.
the
Is the
other
reason why I'm a horror fan.
It's not like unyielding garbage like what Insidious or The Conjuring, which I get
Right,
confused. I
right.
get confused. Like I think they're the same movie most of the time because they're so alike and so bland.
I like.
I agree. This is good old fashioned like slasher, creepy guy. Some really cool effects. Like most of the gore is implied, but
and then
the practical effects that they did have were great.
and you have a small town sheriff that ends up, ultimately like kind of going in line with what the
Yeah.
killer, what the creepy guy.
They actually become partners in the second film. So I was a little bit not loving his character. But I think it was more the way it was played that I didn't like. And there's actually a
It was
different actor that plays him in the second movie. So. Yeah,
Maybe-
his acting wasn't as good as everyone else's. It was a little bit like you were trying to convince me and I wasn't quite buying it, But from reading the reviews and stuff for the follow-up, she was so pretty be good for goodness sake. It sounds like there's a different actor and that maybe he did a little bit better job of that. So
Okay.
I'm interested to see how that pans out in the second film.
This is something really interesting. I'm kind of pissed I missed it.
Actually,
Yeah, me too, because I was looking forward to hearing what you had to say. Because it's kind of, and I know how much you like the Maniac remake, so I felt like that's what this movie reminds me of quite a bit. It's that same vibe. I feel like those are two movies that are very similar. This and Maniac, very similar movies.
In my defense, I think I slept for like 6 hours from Friday to before today.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I wrote something like 25 pages of content for school.
that's finals week.
And I did want to say that this movie was obviously made by a female, written and directed by a woman, which I think is so awesome and so kick-ass because that's just not happening a lot in horror. So I give huge props to Brooklyn for just taking it on at all. I think it's great. And then the fact that she put out a really great movie, I thought, and very, very much spoke to me. What I thought was really cool too, and I don't know if it was intentional, but I felt like the perspective of this is really terrifying from a female perspective. I mean, we hear a lot in the news about these men that kidnap women and hold them hostage in their house for 10, 15, 20 years, that's a lot of women's biggest fear coming true. And this movie really plays to that quite a bit, I think.
From what I saw, he had at least 3 victims,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the one blonde that we saw, and that we saw him cut her up, and
Mhm.
and he was doing some obsession like kissing moments to the severed head in a cloth.
What's
Right.
the age?
And then later on, there was a woman that he already had, dancing with her and dancing with the kidnapped Valerie later.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
so
that was really reminds me of, whatever those crazy dudes that keep the women in their house. You notice when Valerie gets away, I forgot the other one's name, but she's like, "Run." You know? Oh,
and
it took me right back to that,
That makes me think of in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre comics from like the mid 2000s. There's one plot line where these two girls, like they don't make it out of out of the family's house. Like one of them like falls and breaks her neck, like trying to escape, and the other one gets captured. And it ends with Leatherface like cuts the face off of the girl he wanted and puts it on the girl who lived, and he just like nails it to her face and like makes her dance with him.
Jeez.
I think that sounds kind of like that.
Well, it's that creepy, like, you're gonna do what I want, and I'm gonna force you in the most torturous, creepy ways. And he starts out pretty light, it's like snuggle with me on the couch and watch tapes, and
Well,
then it gets
Oh.
increasingly
except when he is about to cut that one girl in the middle. If you see that he is tying some pieces of human hair together,
Mhm.
and evidently, if you see in the background, I actually paid some attention to detail in this film for some reason. I was doing a you, Dustin. I was looking,
Right.
but there
Helpful.
a little bit of a head model where there was a piece of hair, a piece of a wig or something like that on this headpiece, and it seemed like he was preserving her hair.
Keeping like trophies, maybe, or something.
Maybe
Little
something
mementos.
you could wear or sniff or something like that,
Yeah, he was a sniffer.
Yes.
In Dead by Daylight, so Michael Myers' power works by stalking. Like you have to like watch your targets to like be able to go after them like harder. And a lot of his add-ons for stalking are like are like things related to hair. There's like a hairbrush, there's a hair bow, and like his ultimate item for this is called fragrant tuft of hair. It's just like a clipping of hair. It's like fucking creepy.
Well, actually, that's a great way of taking the game to the series. I actually had two questions. I mean, I had
Nailed
one
it on Michael
about
Myers.
this film, and perhaps this would be enlighten me on this. It could be the quality of the transfer that I got, which is one of the reasons why I disliked the sheriff character. To me, that was the one part of the film that I really didn't like. Mainly because I felt like the entire film revolved around one thing more than anything, which was silence. The killer did what he did at the beginning to himself because of the silence. The characters, I felt like a lot of their dialogue was a lot harder to hear, and maybe that's not by design, but I would like to think that it's design because, again, that aesthetic of silence. The sheriff, however, was loud as heck, and I felt like he was almost out of place in the whole. I felt like the movie would have benefited without him, but of course, then again, the second movie could have shown that he did indeed belong, and that was where it came about. Sometimes the second movie can increase it, but that's the only thing to me.
Did you guys watch past the post-credit scenes? There was like 2 of them.
No.
That the post-credit scenes explain the need for the sheriff guy or deputy or whatever he was. He's in the post-credit scene, so maybe go and check that out again, and that might make a little bit more sense because it's really more of a segue, I think, to part 2.
Because he's definitely an opposite
Yeah.
of the whole thing. Basically, he's like the one thing that is totally opposite of the rest of the film.
Probably in a given sense, probably annoy the killer.
My favorite part about him is that he drives like a smart car.
Instead of
Oh my god, I hate those things. Like, anybody
Just
remember?
makes him a giant douche.
instead of some lone town car Lincoln.
Yeah.
Anybody remember the scene from the second Incredibles? Not Incredibles, Expendables movie. Wow, so different. Where Schwarzenegger just like rips the door right off one of those cars. It's like, I have shoes bigger than this car.
I've never seen that. But...
That's what riding around a smart car is like. I knew someone who had one, and I was forced to be in it for years. It was so small that it could barely accommodate a, what is that, 27 by 40 movie poster frame would barely fit in the entire car. Like, it had to go between the front seats from the trunk.
Like having a mini Austin.
Actually, the ending of this film, has anybody here actually seen the David Sterling production, The Claw?
The Claw. No.
Like the claw of that like shitty looking bird?
Talking about claws?
It's basically like Claw, like CLAW, which is another serial killer, stalkerish type film. The ending kind of did remind me of a lot of that film, where it kind of threw you a slight loop, where the with the sheriff being like such a sore thumb, so to speak, in the film, for better or for worse. I felt like that was that to me came as that extra bit to put the pieces together. And again, I need to see the I guess I need to see the post-credit scene, because mine kept messing up after the first couple of minutes of credits.
Claw. Yeah.
I think that messing up might have been part of it.
It's just called Claw.
You meant Claude, like Claude. That was movie I saw. I think it came out kind of this year-ish, and it was like, we have Tiffany Shepis in here for a clip near the beginning that makes no sense, and it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, but to me, I always have had a special place in my heart, and on my channel when I do reviews, I talk about it on a regular, that I always have a special place in my heart for independent small film. There are a few that tuck at my nerves, but that's any film can do that.
Was there a moment in here that tucked at your nerves, so to speak?
The sheriff. But to me, I actually once the whole thing was revealed to me, now I feel cheated because I'm missing those post-credit scenes. But to me, there was only one thing that twinged at me, but that was more of a twinge because I had a hard time with it, which was when he was licking that one girl's wounds.
Yeah.
That just kind of like that feeling down me, and that was not a bad thing necessarily, but that's
more of a gross out feeling.
Yeah, that was a twinge moment, but it wasn't a bad twinge necessarily. I felt like that was a good again. I felt overall, other than the sheriff himself, and again, I'm missing something, and that bothers me now that I know I'm missing it. But that's why I need to find this on DVD so I can actually just watch this anywhere, everywhere.
Well, it's streaming on Vimeo for 99 cents. You can get it there.
I might have to purchase it, and just that way I can get the whole experience from.
Yeah.
And because again, I feel like I missed something at the end.
You might have to work with Katie and see if you can't.
Well, you can find him on Facebook. I can send you the link, and there's links to how to get everything, and the soundtrack and all that stuff. So I'll send the link to you.
This is a fairly new movie, isn't it?
Yeah, 2016, and then I believe 2017 for the sequel or part 2. I guess I don't know if you call it a sequel necessarily, but I guess.
Was the title like used by an earlier movie? Because when I first got into horror collecting, I could have swore I'd heard the phrase "She was so pretty" used as a movie title before.
There's another movie. Like even if you start typing it in on IMDb, there's another movie. I don't know what it is. I didn't look at it. I don't know if it's a horror movie or not. So, but yeah, this one's from 2016. So, I don't know. You probably heard about it on the convention circuit or the film festival circuit. I believe it won some awards too. I don't recall exactly what those are at the moment, but.
Well, I'm kind of glad to see that this type of film was produced. Again, I'm with you on the fact that female directors are so underrepresented, especially in the horror film and the horror genre. And to show that, I think that got to add to that level of terror, because there is that being able to say, okay, this perspective can be used, whereas most male directors can't really visualize that perspective.
Or capture it properly. I think even I felt like that the terror from the female perspective was captured very well in these actresses that played those parts. Like they were very, like I said, the facial expressions and the body language is just really good. That as a female, I could totally feel it.
Well, the thing that I got about the friends of Valerie is that they were really rude to the sheriff.
It was rude for her.
I think it's the whole like punk kids dynamic. You know, they were just like, fuck this guy, whatever. And of course, he thrives on being a dick. So
the biggest thing that I didn't like about the friends of Valerie is that the one that called her called her like he had owned her, like she was his property, you know.
Oh, the friend again. I felt like that was just a lot of like dickhead, friend, dickhead guy behavior. I'm watching those post-credit scenes right now, and yeah, Brandon, you're missing out.
This is a question I've had for a while. So when you see something that's from a female perspective, other than some of the things you just described, how can you tell? Like, how do I phrase this?
What would
how do you tell that it's a female director with using different sensibilities when you see a movie without any background information?
I don't think you necessarily can. I think I can because I'm a female. I'm a woman, and so it plays on certain things for me where I, if I didn't know it was a female that wrote or directed the movie,
okay.
I would still say that it played to that very well.
A man's
I don't think you can necessarily say
to get to the point of things.
Well, and we can't say that this is true across the board for every movie and everything. That's just not, these are generalizations about, male and female perspective. But I think the point I'm trying to make is as a woman, my perspective is, or my feelings are triggered by certain things, is what I'm trying to say. So, like, I've been sexually harassed, sexually assaulted before in my life. So I know kind of that creepy feeling of the unwanted advancements from a man. Most women know what unwanted advancements from a man feels like. This amplifies that by about 100. It really turns it up where it's like, yeah, you're at the point now where you feel fear for your life. And that was transferred really well. And I'm not saying a man couldn't also do that. But I just felt like Brooklyn did it really well. It was just
it was really creepy that Elfie showed up at that ravine.
Oh yeah, that was the other piece. The really persistent following, where again that turns that creep factor up. Where it's like, oh, he's everywhere turn around and, you know, and of course, I think that was the purpose of these asshole friends of hers, to really be, you know, jerks, like, you know, so that she didn't have anybody like, hey, this dude is following me, but she has nobody who's really giving a crap until she's vanished.
Yeah.
So
I really did think that it was done in a well thing. Overall, again, other than the sheriff, I thought that it was a well executed film, and if it had, other than that, I felt like it would have easily, in my opinion, fit well in an 80s release, and it would have fit well in with other high budget 80s releases. That's one of the things I think that is awesome with a lower budget film, is that they can take those, they understand the value. Well, a good lower budget film.
Yeah.
And the value
with the thriller killer.
And they did. They understood what they had. And some people do the opposite, like say Thanksgiving, where they understand, where they amplify what they don't have and use that to their advantage as well. But in this one, they took what they didn't have, what they did have, they upped to that level, and they put it at a decent standard.
And I think there are some low budget films that you know, strive to make something more than what they have too, because, you know, you don't start out with much. You know, you don't start out with a whole heck of a lot to you know, go on. I mean, you have your simpleton people, and you're not very well sure of your props, you know, or your locations, and
I felt like in this movie they really utilized locations like the carnival. Clearly they didn't get the carnival for themselves, right? They had to go to a carnival. Just like utilizing things like that were just, it was an interesting background, you know, the bright colors and the things, you know, using whatever they had at their disposal that was easy to access, but gave interest to the film. I saw a lot of that in this movie. And I also thought, you know, probably a lot of it, of the props, or, you know, the apartment, the things that were furnished in it were probably thrift store type items, you know, things that worked really well for this, that were probably relatively inexpensive to get, I would think, or maybe somebody already had it all and it was just ready to go. Everybody kind of knows somebody with a grandma's creepy basement that hasn't been touched in 30 years or something, you know, like just utilizing things like that to make a really interesting looking film, that, you know, the slightly washed out colors, you know, and the kind of the shaky camera angles gave it a really nostalgic feel. Like I was waiting for like old cars to drive by. I'm one of those people that always looks at cars in movies. I always look at cars anyway, but I definitely look at them in movies. And that was like the one little piece where it's like, obviously that costs a lot of money to like only have those kind of cars in your, you know, cars that fit the period. But I was waiting for some like old cars so that it could totally look like it was the 70s or early 80s.
But that's the timeless nature of the film. And I mean, there was a film that was released. What was it? It was a film about a sexually transmitted ghost. Gosh, what is it? Follow something?
Follows?
It follows. Yeah.
But that was also very
Perfect.
But I do think that
it was a good fucking movie.
Looking back to the independent scene, though, I think that both independent movies and independent games, that's where the creativity really shines. So many of the higher budget movies, they want to play to that formula. They don't want to take the risks. Yeah. But an independent movie or a game, I mean, just Dead by Daylight, Dustin, from your example there, I mean, that's taking a huge risk. That wasn't sitting there. It's not a AAA title unnecessarily, but the same thing here. I mean, you're taking those risks, and in this case, I thought it paid off. Maybe not financially. I hope financially. I'd like to see this series go on to be other things, and I wish the director.
It actually, there is going on to be more things. I don't know if you guys caught that, but there's also going to be Tales from the Creep horror anthology from these same fine folks at Dirt Candy Productions.
Good.
So they're doing like a horror anthology film, which I'm looking forward to.
What's interesting is not too recently there was a small actor that played in She Was So Pretty Too, that is also a director with his company called M&H Productions. I'll have to figure it out again, but he was kickstarting for his Dark Side Stories, which was an anthology that he did, and he also just recently released his Nightmares Unleashed short film, which I don't know whether it'll be part of an anthology, but you know, there are horror directors that are coming out of this, you know, this series. I mean, he only mentioned briefly who he was, whatnot, and he couldn't exactly tell too much of what was going on in the film. But you know, it was definitely unique to hear the connection that something that I produced has a connection with, you know, this director.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's how close-knit this community is. You know, when you really break it down, like, I see a lot of the same people over and over and over when I go to horror conventions. And granted, I'm pretty much only in the Midwest here, but still, we're such a tight community and a close-knit group of people that, you know, it's a big reason why I even wanted to talk about this film at all, is just to support other people out here doing what we're trying to do, which is just trying to create art and do what we love. And
I believe every film, whether independent or big budgeted, or even if it was a basement, you know, shot snuff film, you know, even if somebody just slapped a pig, you know, just to get it on film, I believe it all needs to be talked about.
Well, actually, I would disagree about the snuff films. I believe the snuff film needs to be buried as deep as it can go. I do not.
Yeah, let's not discuss any of those, please.
Yeah, they're like, especially if they're like real, because maybe don't do that.
It's a little taboo subject.
Maybe the wrong example. Like, we get what you're trying to say,
Like
well,
guinea pig or things of that nature. Because the American Guinea Pig series was
like Crossbearer or something.
It was actually originally films from Japan that were banned, and I know there are a lot of hardcore people out there, you know, and for some reason they love to see people in pain.
That's why I don't like. That's why I generally don't like Asian films in particular, because most of like the horror itself seems to be just from, look at how gross this is. All we've got, and it's like,
Asian films Asian horror has a subtlety to it, but it depends on the horror that you look at. I mean, the mainstream ones. I mean, I actually prefer, for instance, Dark Water being an example. One that was, of course, in the whole model of, oh, we've got to do an American horror version of this within a year, which, you know, but people looking at some of these, or looking at some of the most early ones, like Kwaidan, which
Kwaidan, that was an awesome anthology.
That is a wonderful film, but portraying the horror aspects. But there is that subtlety of it all. Again, it's hard to really explain in that sense. I mean, now there is comedy horror, which is a different aspect, like Tokyo Zombie or
Dawn of the Dead is a horror comedy.
You know, I mean, those were like, but again, that's a different aspect, and I love to look at these. As I've said before, love or hate a film, I always consider most films, except for snuff films, because I don't like anybody die for that, or crush films. I don't like see animals hurt either. But if no one's getting hurt, I believe that anything is a piece of art that that deserves some sort of viewing, that deserves that sort of respect. In this particular case, I really liked what I saw, but even if I didn't, even in films like my least favorite independent film, which is Mr. Jingles, I respect that its ability to exist, and I respect those audience members that really love the film. It's like I say, to me, I feel richer for actually seeing it because you don't hear about these films in the mainstream.
No.
I appreciate you bringing this film to light, Katie. I'm thankful to have actually gotten to see it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did.
And every once in a while, with an independent film too, like you find something that's really great that you love. I mean, that's how I've found a handful of different things. Just doing the old family video thing I used to, like the Stage Fright, remake from 2014. That was fucking amazing. Like I loved every minute of that. And it was an independent movie that I just kind of stumbled across. It's like, oh yeah, this sells kind of high. I guess I'll pick it up. Yeah, I watch it, and it's like, this is pretty good. And the scene with the killer's guitar solo happens, and it's like, all right, we're keeping this. This is fucking great. It's like, it's amazing. Like the killer has this guy tied up in the kitchen, and he like punches him, and he goes off, and he grabs a guitar, and he grabs a kitchen knife, and he looks like he's gonna stab the shit out of the guy like tied to the chair. Then he sticks the knife in like the bridge of the guitar, and like, you know, does a guitar solo, like using the knife to like change the pitch. And I'm sitting there like, what? Yes.
What is this movie called?
A Stage Fright.
Oh, all right.
Check that out.
Incredible.
So that's over the top to the extreme.
Oh my god, I love it so much. Like it's so good. It's like it's basically a slasher musical.
Nice.
Like Repo, a genetic opera?
Substantially better in my opinion. It's like the killer's motivation is that like he works I've already spoiled it partially. They work at a summer camp for like, it's like a theater camp. And they actually hate like theater and singing, but during like some of his murders, he can sing incredibly well. Like he's
actually a great concept. I like that.
Like he's called they call him the metal killer because like everybody else sings, you know, in the like kind of preppy musical way, and he sings sort of metal-esque. Like all his themes are like electric guitared. Like, and the movie has a great soundtrack too. Like one of the more memorable songs is like the intro to the camp song. We're gay, but not in that way.
Maybe we'll have to watch that one for the podcast sometime.
Musicals move me and touch me in ways I can't say. I'm gay. And then they have a reprise version of the credits. It's so good. It's like, thank you for watching the movie. Thanks for enjoying the show. It's fucking believable.
Since we're going down this independent road, I figured we'd touch on another independent film from the 80s next week, if you guys don't mind.
What is it?
Slime City.
Slime City.
I
don't know that I've heard of that one.
I believe it.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? See, I keep missing the good movies and getting like stuck with the bullshit movies.
This was actually a really good bad movie.
And the way The Exorcist is a good movie, nah, lies.
But it's actually, does it have a DVD release?
It does. It's actually in a box set. If you wanted to pick up, See, a lot of the films that were put out by the by the it actually had a sequel, believe it or not, not too recently. In fact, Slime City Massacre, which I have not watched yet, but it's by a director that I am friends with, called Gregory Lamberson. Here's the synopsis. A student moves into a rundown building in New York City. His bizarre neighbors make a concoction in their apartment they call wine. But when he takes some of it, he turns into a deformed, murderous monster.
Okay, so Slime City with Slime City Massacre.
Well, there is that with the Blu-ray release.
Sounds like street trash a little. I might like it.
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde, kind of.
But I mean,
what's the box set that you say it's in?
It's with oh God, I'll have to find it after the show or whatnot. I've got it in my collection here somewhere, but it's by Shock-O-Rama, or it's distributed by Shock-O-Rama.
Huh. Would you be willing to give me an extra week for that one so I can get a physical release?
We could do that, but then that means that we can actually choose another film.
Short of Dane coming in, I would say Cat Soup. I would like to hear him either tear it apart or be interested in it.
Well, first of all, we have to get Dane interested in coming on.
He's just really filming, right? Like he's not outgrown us or anything. Or...
Oh, he's tonight. He's found out that he's got a disability that I have. So, yeah.
Wait,
we shouldn't talk about it live on the air.
I'm doing it just for the hell of it, anyway.
I'm sure it's fine. Everybody's got problems.
Oh, wow.
But in any case, so what does anybody? Oh, I know. Let's do Mother.
Oh, that one with the Aronofsky film.
Yeah.
Is that the one that everybody was talking about last fall?
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. Like, I'd like to know what the fuck was happening.
Okay. Let's do Mother then. I already have that digitally put into something. And then the following week we'll plan on doing Slime City.
Speaking of like female-centric movies, did anybody see Revenge? Because I've seen some trailers for it, and I kind of want to see it.
You know what I'm actually really looking forward to? I'm looking forward to the new Nymphomaniac director's film for some reason. He evidently got some people to walk out of his theater for it. Nymphomaniac. Yes. It would be. Let's see, the director is Lars von Trier.
Whew. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Lars von Trier just had The House That Jack Built recently.
Oh, yeah. I was seeing stuff about that, how people were like leaving during it because it was like too much for people. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Lars von Trier is a particularly interesting director. Though I actually liked there was a TV series he did called The Kingdom that I thought was amazingly good. Stephen King actually even took that one and created his own series, Kingdom Hospital, based off of it.
Well,
The Kingdom is much stranger.
I'll have to try to track down The Kingdom myself because I really liked Kingdom Hospital. Is the TV series that King did. For some reason that just was like some of the best horror.
Both actually, yeah, they're both great series, and though they both have similarities, a lot of the characters are similar. The way that the plot goes is the Kingdom goes in like a weird, like, I know that Kingdom Hospital goes in an odd direction, but the Kingdom goes in a direction only Lars von Trier could really do. And the DVDs of that particular series are really good because most episodes have an introduction by Lars von Trier, which is just really neat to see.
Okay. So, in any case, so Mother for next week, and then let's wrap this up here. So, let's start with Brandon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I am with a YouTube channel called Septum Sen versus the World. We are all about physical media. We are trying to, of course, show our love for that medium, which seems to be dying out as time goes on. We do typical things such as we show what is coming out on DVD and Blu-ray for the following weeks to keep everybody up to date. We also do movie reviews, a few collaborations here and there with Movies Galore, and of course we show the typical pickup videos because what is a DVD? What is a physical media loving site without physical pickups? Matter of fact, next week I believe we have a set collaboration with our channels for talking about disliked movies and genres, or more movies, I believe.
Yeah, westerns. Westerns are bullshit.
And then, of course, we had a collaboration not too long ago, which was about these beautiful Finnish animations.
Yep. About an hour or so ago, we went on about 3 Finnish animations called Lynn, Forest of the Hatred, or Forest the Hatred, Swordsman After Art, and Dustin Choke.
What? Oh, great.
Mean choke yourself, Dustin.
I don't want it. You can't make me.
In any case, Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm Katie Cadaver from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I am a body positive horror artist and alternative model. You can find me on patreon.com/Katie Cadaver or on Instagram at Third Eye Open. That's 3RDEYE0PEN. I'm also the makeup artist for horror punk band Ratbat Spider. You can listen to them at ratbatspider.bandcamp.com. And I'm a Dead Girl for Dead Girl's Dark Coffin Classics horror TV show. And you can watch episodes of Dead Girl's Dark Coffin Classics at vimeo.com/DDCC. I am also a performer and producer for Grindhouse Tees Burlesque Productions. And you can find us on facebook.com/Grindhouse Tees. You can see some of us also performing coming up June 9th in Delavan, Wisconsin at the Arcadia Bar and Grill. We're doing a show there for the Haunted Harlots, who are presenting Hell Hath No Fury, A Night with the Devil's Daughters. So it's going to be a fun burlesque event, basically. In Delavan, they're doing specials. It's $10 just to get in the door, or if you want an all-you-can-drink wristband and admission to the show, it's $50. Or for $90, you can get a hotel room, an all-you-can-drink wristband, and admission to the show. So we're hoping to have a nice turnout for that. So come out and see us in Delavan, Wisconsin on Saturday, June 9th. And finally, I am an editor now for Movies Galore of Milwaukee. And I did my first review on my friend Adam LaHoulier's romantic comedy, The Backslide. That should still be pretty easy to find on the Movies Galore site.
Yep.
And hopefully here when things start, the convention season is starting to pick up. So things really are never going to slow down for me. But I'm going to try to write some more reviews very soon.
And Dustin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, where you're from.
I live in Milwaukee and I collect horror pretty much anything. I show my collection off at my Instagram, DHR Hunter, all one word. And I just finished my semester of intensive GIS studies. So we're actually going to have time to do stuff now. So I have kind of a blitz of movie reviews that I would like to write up for Movies Galore, which I am also an editor for. I just haven't had time to do anything with it yet. And my Beast review, which I had to shelve at, I think, maybe 60-70% completion, is going to be wrapped up relatively soon. So that'll be my first thing coming out. But we mean it this time.
Cool. And my name is David Streggy. I run Inside Movies Galore. I also blog at Movies Galore Milwaukee and the man behind the curtain, so to speak. And I'm also a small-time producer where later this year, Wrestle Massacre is eventually going to come out. I'm actually a finishing producer my producer quality that I have brought to the film in 2 weeks, and hopefully have that out with Brad Twigg later on this summer. And there are some various other short films that I'll be producing as well, making new contacts as I go. And hopefully everyone who is listening out there can like and subscribe and enjoy this broadcast. So definitely look out for some more cool movies to watch this year. Hopefully we'll cover some more trauma films and some more 80s films, and get the ball rolling and have a kind of a cool list. And eventually, once we hit the 100th episode, I was thinking of doing a retrospective of all the films that we have watched so far and which ones we have liked or disliked. So definitely check that out on the 100th episode. And those who that live in Milwaukee, I figured we would all go out to dinner somewhere. I'm not sure whether I will be able to help pay for anyone one to go, but but I figured we would celebrate at least our 100th anniversary if anyone wanted to.
So take a cell phone, get some FaceTime, and then I'll just eat my microwave dinner with y'all.
There you go. I think we should all have dinner at Popeyes.
Hey, I could bring some. I could bring some.
Perfect. Get us the David discount on the Popeyes.
Pretty close to my house too.
Yay.
More or less, I think. I don't know. I have no spatial or temporal awareness, ironically.
See, those of us on the East Coast, we could eat. Me and Dane could eat pies and do like off of a FaceTime while y'all are doing it.
Perfect.
We'll figure something out once the day comes up. So I'm thinking of ahead before I even think about what we could possibly do. So in any case, definitely check out this episode, like and subscribe, and hopefully everyone has a good evening. Everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night.